In today's video, I will be doing a March reading recap as well as doing some fun book review spreads as well as setting up for the month of April. So stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new, welcome. My name is Tracy and I am a girl with plans. I want to thank you so much for pressing that play button today. And if you find that you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button. All right, because I kind of want to do some fun decorating and things like that in today's video, I am not going to be doing a recap of everything. I'm just going to kind of go over my overall stats, and then what I'm going to do is I'll talk about the books I read as I decorate spreads. Before I get started, last month in February, I had not finished doing my book spreads. So I finished this one. I think you guys may have seen, but A Crown of Gilded Bones is the third book in the Blood and Ash series. That was one of my lower rated books, but I had a lot to talk about. So when I do these spreads, as you'll see what I'll do this month, they're not always my top books. They're just books I need to talk about. And my little review section isn't enough. So that's why I kind of keep a few pages in between each month to kind of give myself that opportunity. So here is my overall stats for the month. This week right here is when I left for vacation. I don't know if I read any of these days. I don't think I did. But a lot of this stuff I was going off of memory. I knew I was reading at certain times, so I kind of knew those days, but some of the other days I did not. I did read all three books on my TBR, which was Haunting Adeline, The Housemaid, and Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. So I read 5 Kindle books or ebooks and 3 audiobooks. When I was on vacation, there was quite a few times where I was traveling 8 hours to a place, 8 hours from a place. And then I think another day was 4 hours to, 4 hours from. So I had a lot of time in the car, and I cannot read an ebook when I'm in the car because I like to look out the window or shut my eyes. So audiobooks are perfect for that. So with that said, I actually listened to 32 hours and 14 minutes of audio. And I did read, because I read some thrillers, some Frida McFadden books. Her books are kind of short. I only read 2,321 pages, although there were a couple of 600-page books there. My total books were, like I said, adding these all together because I count my audio. My audio is reading, so I listened or read a total of 8 books or completed a total of 8. And the reason why I say that is I actually DNF'd 2 books. I will pull up my DNF, my graveyard. There it is. Hunting Adeline, which is the second book in the cat and mouse duet. I DNF'd that at 11%. I made it to 11% because the first book ended on a cliffhanger and I just wanted to know what happened. And after that, I'm done. And then Ninth House, this is a book that I kept trying to read at different points over the course of my vacation, and I just could not. So I DNF'd it at 23%. If you have read Ninth House, does it get better after a certain percentage? Because I would hate to be oh, it's the first quarter of the book was horrible, but after that, it's so easy to understand and so fun, and I'm so close. But there's just so many books I want to read, and that was such a struggle. Okay. So I'll go over the actual books I read and talk about my favorite and my least favorite. But I ended up reading, y'all, only 2 fantasy books. So only 2 of the 8 books are fantasy. I'm talking about completed. I completed 2 thrillers and 4 romance. 3 of them were dark romance, although one of that was more of a mafia romance, and then one was a contemporary romance. So with that said, starting here are the books that I read this month, or the month of March. I did change up some of my ratings. I liked, some of my stickers. So instead of coloring in the stars, I'm just doing a star and then write down the star next to it. It's just easier for me to see the number versus trying to color in a half a star and stuff like that. So there we go. So my contemporary romance that I read was Happy Place. Dark romance was Haunting Adeline. Mafia romance was The Predator. And then I just finished Sinner's Playground, which is part of a series. That is a dark romance, gang type romance. Um, then my fantasy was A Crown This Cold and Heavy. That was an audio. And Slaying the Vampire Conqueror was the other fantasy. And then the two Frida McFadden books, Never Lie and The Housemaid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw together a few spreads. Now, I don't know that I'm going to fill them out on camera. I might come back and they'll just be fills out at the end of this video. But I'm going to decorate some pages. And while I do that, I'll do a voiceover talking about the books I read. I'm not going to be talking about them a lot. I'm just going to be kind of giving you my overall views of them. And then I am going to decorate my April page. Hopefully I have enough time. I might end up skipping, instead of just fast forwarding, I might end up skipping some of it. But, and then that's it. So before I speed it up, I'm going to say the two spreads I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do Haunting Adeline, which was my least favorite book this month. And it might be one of my least favorite books this year that I did not DNF. Obviously, because if I DNF'd it, it was horrible. It was the one that I struggled to give a rating for, and I'll give that up, give that little spiel later. But I want to do a spread because I need to talk about it. Just like I did last month with A Crown of Gilded Bones, the third book in the Blood and Ash series. I needed to talk about it. I was so frustrated with the book. So I need to talk about it. And then I think I'm going to do Slaying the Vampire Conqueror for my second one. That one's going to be a little bit of a challenge to decorate because I don't really have much out there thinking about to decorate. I really enjoyed the two other dark romance books that were part of a series. I'll talk about that. What I think I'm going to do is toward the back, I'll have a lot of free space. And I might start doing a series. So for the Dark Verse series, which was The Predator, was the book that I read. And then the Harlequin Crew is the second series, which was Sinner's Playground. I might do series here. And there's some other series that I want to capture. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. I'll likely do most of those off camera, and I'm not going to do them anytime soon. But that's enough. Let me go ahead, start putting down my book spreads, and then we'll chat in a voiceover. All right, so my reviews are going to be very kind of simple. I'm not going to go over the plot summary because what I would probably say would be typically what you would find on Amazon. So I'm just going to kind of give you a general overview and then kind of get into my reviews. So the first book I read in March was Haunting Adeline. I went into this book not really knowing much. I know a lot of people love it. I knew it was a stalker dark romance, but other than that, I really did not know much. Yeah, this book kind of confused me as far as how I felt about it. So this is part one of the cat and mouse duet, which you'll see that's the reason why I use cat and mouse stickers on this page. Yeah, I thought the initial premise of a stalker romance could be interesting, but it got a little dark in areas, and it kind of annoyed me that the main character had kind of a heroic job, but he was doing these bad things to Adeline. So I guess I can tell you that his kind of side job or his job was he was a hacker, but his main mission was to save women and children from trafficking. So, yeah, that's what kind of annoyed me, the fact that that was his role, but he was still doing all of these horrible things to Adeline. So that was my problem. And then the scenes that were really dark, I felt like they were added just for shock value. They didn't progress the plot. They didn't really add anything to the story. It was just okay, WTF, why was that added to there? And I think that's what kind of annoyed me is I'm not, I can read pretty dark stuff and be okay, but when it seems like it's just there for the shock value, I just get annoyed. However, there was enough in the story to keep me interested that I actually finished it, and that's why in the end I ended up going with the 3 stars. Okay, so on the other end of the romance spectrum, there's Happy Place. This was my first contemporary romance read of the year. I actually listened to this on audiobook, and I got kind of bored with this one. So it's basically I guess the trope is fake dating. So it's kind of following a group of friends, and, it's friends of couples. And one of the couples, which are the main characters, they have recently broken up or ended their engagement, but they haven't let their friends know. So they still pretend to be engaged. And it's their story, and they kind of go into their relationship and stuff like that. So I kind of got bored. I wasn't really eager to press play. This took me 2 whole weeks to listen to. I'm not sure if I'm just not a fan of contemporary romance, or if this is not one of the better romances that I should have listened to. I may try this genre again. I also may try another Emily Henry book, because I know so many people out there love it. So I might try another one just before I'm like, this isn't for me. But yeah, I was just a little bored with this one. So yeah, I ended up giving it 3 stars just because it was okay. I mean, it wasn't like horrible. It just really wasn't my cup of tea. All right, so then the next book that I read was my first ever read into mafia romance. And it is the first book in the Dark Verse series. It's called The Predator. So with most mafia romances, you're going to have rival families and probably, love interest from one of the 2 rival families. What I liked about this book was there was a plot. It was a kind of a slow burn romance. And the plot was the main story, and then the romance was like the subplot. And that's kind of what I liked. I liked the story. I liked the characters. No one really annoyed me, which is always a plus. So yeah, this one was kind of up there for one of my top reads of the month. I gave it 4.5 stars. Like I said, it was fun. It was easy. However, the 4.5 star rating may also be attributed to the fact that I came off of 2 pretty hard to read books that were either boring or just not my cup of tea. So this one might have been rated higher. And that's the reason why I couldn't give it 5 stars, because I knew when I rated it, I'm like, I might have really, really enjoyed this book anyway, but I might have enjoyed it even more because the last 2 books I read were not as good. But I do recommend this book. It's not very dark. I mean, there is some violence in it because it's mafia, but as far as the romance element, it's not super dark. Kind of similar to that. Now, this one I didn't read after The Predator. I actually read this book at the very end of the month, but it's very similar to The Predator, so I'm going to kind of mention it here. I read the first book in the Harlequin Crew series called Sinner's Playground. This is a book I have not really heard much about or anything about. It just popped up on my Kindle as a recommended read because I had read the Zodiac Academy books, and the same authors write this book. I enjoyed it. It was another easy read. It's, a dark, I don't want to say it's a dark romance. It's like a gang romance. Let's call it that. Is that even a genre type? But because, they're your main guys are members of like a gang, but it follows a group of friends who kind of, some of them have been separated for 10 years, and this takes 10 years in the future, and then they're kind of reunited, and there is some, slow burn type why choose or reverse harem elements in it. That's kind of what the book is kind of based on. This book really does intrigue me. The story, the plot really does intrigue me. I want to know what's happening as far as the plot goes. The romance, yeah, I can give or take it. There are a couple characters that really annoy me. Rogue, the female main character, really does annoy me. She makes some really questionable decisions that just cause me to roll my eyes. And her banter also annoys me a lot. She's very repetitive. And then Fox, one of the main male characters, also annoys me. And his obsession with Rogue is really, really kind of, ugh. So I'm hoping I can get over that because I definitely want to continue the series. I thought this was a fun read again, and I gave it 4 stars. And when I say fun read, it doesn't mean it's a light book at all. It just means I actually enjoyed reading it. So when I enjoy reading a book, I call it a fun read, no matter how dark the book is. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I'm going to continue reading it. I have started the second book, and so far, the female main character isn't as annoying. Fox still is, but she isn't. So I'll update you on that next month. Okay, now into my fantasy era, because you know I love my fantasy books. So I read I listened to the 3rd book in the Kingdom of Lies series, A Crown This Cold and Heavy. I really enjoyed this book, but the majority of the book was a lot slower than the first 2. And that is because this book is kind of primarily prepping for war. So in this world, the general synopsis was that the king, when children had magic, they would take away their magic and then give it back to them in bits and pieces when they reach 25. So not their full magic. That's the general synopsis of the story. I mean, there's a lot to it. That's just kind of the world that we're in, and there's fae and things like that. So, but in book 3, they're prepping for war. I will say the ending was OMG. Some things kind of foreshadowed some of the ending of book 3, but it's a major cliffhanger, and book 4 does not come out, I think, until May. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get that as soon as it comes out. So, yeah, this one I recommend this series. This series I think is great. I don't think it's super complicated. After you get through like the first 10% of the first book, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, this is pretty, I kind of understand it. But this book is a little bit slower, but I do feel like it was necessary, because they're leading to something. It wasn't just added because the author needs to make more money. So I felt that this was essential. And like I said, the ending was chef's kiss. All right. And then the other book that was kind of tied, or it might be my favorite read, was Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. And this is by one of my favorite authors, Carissa Broadbent. Absolutely love her writing. I feel like she writes things where it's just easy to understand as far as the world's building goes. So like this is a book that I would recommend if you're getting into fantasy. I believe this might be a standalone. So it follows a seer who does not have eyesight. That's part of the group that she's in. They kind of give up their eyesight. And her role is to slay the vampire conqueror. But this is a fantasy romance. So you can kind of guess what happens. Again, I thought it was super easy. I really connected with the characters. I loved all of the characters. It was a slow burn, which is probably my favorite trope. I mean, I'm kind of figuring all this out as I'm going along, but I think slow burn is one of my favorite tropes, and this was a slow burn. I really, really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. It started like easy. I could understand everything, and it ended with, a finality that I am kind of satisfied with. So, I mean, of course, I would like to see where this story would go, but like I said, I think it is a standalone. Who knows anymore? But I think the intention was for it to be a standalone. All right. Now let's chat a little bit about the final 2 books that I read. Well, they weren't the final 2 books, but they're the 2 books I haven't talked about yet, which were both thrillers. And they were both by Frida McFadden. The first one is a book that I listened to on audio. It is Never Lie. This one was a little, I don't know. So basically a couple is going to look at a house that is for sale, and it is starting to snow, and they get snowed into the house. And there's kind of like, okay, well, who made the appointment with the realtor? Why is the realtor not there? And then there's like some food in the refrigerator, but the house has not been lived in a few years because the owner went missing and is presumed dead. So it's like all this stuff going on. And the reason why I kept listening, because I kind of got a little bored with this one too, was because I kind of wanted to know what was going on. Was there someone else in the house? Who killed the previous owner of the house? How do they come upon this house? There was just so many questions I had that I had to keep listening to find out the answers. The twist I did not see coming, but I also wasn't like floored by it. It was just kind of like, oh, okay. All right, I see where that's going. But yeah, so I gave that one 3 stars. And then finally was The Housemaid, which is a book that was on my TBR for over a year. Finally read it. I did enjoy it. I wouldn't say I absolutely loved it, but I found it interesting. I didn't really connect with the main character, the housemaid. I did find the wife in the story intriguing. And then the twist I did not see coming. So that's the reason why this one was 3.5 stars, because I did enjoy the twist, and this is part of a series. So I will be reading The Housemaid's Secret hopefully soon. I'm not sure if I'm like itching to read it in April or not. We'll see. But yeah, so I gave that one 3.5 stars. Okay, guys, there we go. So I just decided just to throw butterflies on the page for April. Didn't do anything too elaborate. Then I decided to do the 2-page spread because I wasn't sure what to do for Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. So I just figured I'd take it, all the way over. I went with roses because that was, kind of a major thing, and Haunting Adeline. But I kind of like the way it turns out. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use these boxes to journal, and then I'll probably write the overall rating or something like 1-word type thing here. And then I'll just randomly journal. And the smaller boxes, that's where I'll kind of like, if in my favorite book, I'll kind of maybe highlight my favorite moment or something about my favorite character. And my least favorite book, I might like highlight my WTF moment. I don't know. We'll see. But then the other ones are just for me to kind of talk about my thoughts, and if I need more space, I can write outside the boxes. It's just when I was decorating, it just looked cute with the boxes, and I kind of really liked how this turned out. I think it's so much fun. This one, I might add more to it a little bit later. I just wasn't sure how I was gonna do it, and I figured I would decorate and then add the boxes around it. And like I said, I'll always need this spot open because you can see in March, that's how I keep track of the books I read and the days I read them. So I need this open because I have been pretty much using that entire space every month. So that'll be filled in. This will be filled in. Then this will be filled in. I might go over this with like a mild liner or a Tombow just to give it more color. But right now, I'm just going to end this video. So guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I like doing these reading wrap-ups. I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, please remember to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night. Until next time, bye.